Hello Venti viewers, today we are going over my 6-month review of this guy. It's a Sony A7 IV. They came out in December of 2021. Now make sure you stay tuned until the end of the video where we'll be going over some pro settings to really elevate your experience with this camera. Now, I have used this camera for all different kinds of photography. For instance, I've used it for sports, products, portraits, landscapes, and some wildlife. Now, I have really tested out this camera in all different ways, and I thought, let me share some of my findings with all of you to help you decide if you want to buy this camera yourself. We're going to start with just rattling off the specs. Now, the Sony A7 IV boasts a 33 megapixel camera with 4K up to 60 frames per second at 10-bit 422, 1080 at 120. It oversamples 7K footage when recording in full frame 4K footage up to 30 frames per second. You have 15 stops of dynamic range and 5-axis IBIS. You have dual SD card slots with a CF Express Type A as well. And my favorite feature, the flip out screen. Why don't all camera makers have this now? Especially since we have to all film vertically now. It's way easier to just flip the screen like this to record vertical video than trying to, like, I don't know, put it on the back and having it locked horizontally. As far as battery life is concerned, the official SIPA rating of the Sony A7 IV is at 520 shots per charge, and this is when using the electronic viewfinder. Now, I have gotten easily double that when using the flip out screen and had battery to spare. As for the recording capabilities, it can shoot 4K videos for at least 2 hours, which I've found that to be pretty much true. It's quite nice, it's enough. You just buy some extra batteries. This is a true hybrid camera, great for stills and video. It is dust and water resistant. Now on the left side, we have our full HDMI port. We have a microphone jack, headphone jack, USB-C port for charging, and you can keep it plugged in when filming so that way you never run out of power. And we have a multi-port, which I have personally never used myself. On the bottom, we have our tripod connection, we have our battery casing here, and then on the right side, we have our 2 SD card slots with a CF Express Type A slot. All you really need is a V90 SD card, which allows you to record in XAVCS-I at 4K at 60 frames per second, which is the highest quality that this camera is capable of recording in. And I will make sure I add my SD cards that I purchased for this camera in the link in the description below. Now, let's talk about lenses. So the only lens that I really use is the Tamron 35-150 f2-2.8. This is an amazing lens that I have used for all sorts of photography, which I will show you here shortly. The only drawback about this lens is the fact that I cannot update it because the cable they give you is a USB-C to USB-A, and I don't have a computer anymore that has USB-A, and only that cable will work with this lens. You cannot use a USB-C cable, which I've tried ones from Apple, from DJI, but none of them work. You also can't use a USB-C hub. That's the only annoying thing about this lens, but everything else is, of course, flawless. Next up is the Sony 24-105. Now, I bought this lens to tie me over until I got the Tamron lens, and it's a fine lens. I have no complaints. I'm not in love with how it looks with shooting into the sun, or rather the sun stars that you get compared to the Tamron, and especially the lens flare as well. But having something a little bit more than 24-70 is nice. Now, the next lens that I want to talk about is the 16-35 f2.8. It's the perfect wide angle lens. The focus is fast, no complaints here. Very happy with it. It's one I use for all my vlogging. And then the last one is the big boy. It's a Tamron 150 to 500 f5 to 6.7. It's a fairly sharp lens. Even shooting at night, it still performs very well. It's obviously a specialty lens that's not for everyone, but it is a great affordable zoom lens, and I would highly recommend it. Now, with a 33 megapixel sensor on this camera, that gives me a decent amount of wiggle room for cropping and produces overall great image quality, which I'm about to show you here. This camera will allow you to shoot at 10 frames per second when at 12-bit, but it does go down to 6 frames per second when using 14-bit, which I found is still 6 frames per second is still totally fine when shooting most sports images. So I'm gonna show you guys a few raw images and then the same images edited so that you can see how you can really push the colors and the dynamic range of this camera. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so first up we have this photo here that I took in the studio. This is with 2 lights on the side with 2 gels, and this was the raw image, and then this is what I was able to push the image to. So let me see if I can show you a little bit better. So here's your before, and here's your after. So really sharp, great colors on this, really happy with it. Now, next up, we have this photo of downtown LA right here. Now, this was shot during a supermoon that I did a few weeks ago. We did a video about it. I'll link to it here. You guys can check that out if you want to know how to shoot the moon. So this was the raw image, and this was the edited. So this is what I was able to pull out of it. Here is the raw image, and here is the edited image. Looks really great, really happy with this. Now, I know it might look a little hazy and not sharp. That has nothing to do with the Tamron 150 to 500. That has everything to do with all the air pollution in Los Angeles. Next up, we have this photo of me that I took of myself here in the Redwoods. Now, if you notice around here, it's very dark. We don't have any details there. So this was the raw image, and then this was the edited image. So look at the raw image. If we look at all the shadows, how dark they are, we're able to pull a lot of those shadows up and give me some of those details of the tree there. So very happy with that one. Now, this is some product photography that I did for Clocks and Colors. This is not taken with a macro lens, people. This is taken with the Tamron 35 to 150. Phenomenal lens, can't speak highly enough about that lens. So this is the raw image, and then this is the edited image. So I'll show you that again. So here is our raw image, and of course I cropped it, changed the composition a little bit, and here is the edited image, black and white, a little bit of sepia, and kept the colors in the 2 rings there. Absolutely happy with that one, loved that. Now, next up, let's look at this slightly overexposed image. Maybe you can save it, maybe you can't. This is the raw image, and this is the edited image here. This was some product photography I did for Adidas. So here's our raw, and here's our edited. As you can see, I can really pull a lot of those highlights back to give some detail in the shoe. And next one up, this is a photo of me. Now, I want to point out the lens flare here on the Tamron 35 to 150. Love that lens. I know I keep saying it, but it is so worth it. So worth the $18.99, I believe. By the way, I would buy it from pixelconnection.com, which is not the sponsor of this video. I just really like them because they don't charge any sales tax. I will put their description in the link down below as well. I don't have 1,000 followers yet, so I can't really get big brands to sponsor the videos. So if you like what you're seeing, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Now let's dive back in here. So this is the raw image, and here's our edited image. So again, here is the raw, and here is the edited. Very happy with that image, really nice. And then our last one here, now going back to the 6 frames per second. So I do a lot of shoots with runners, and 6 frames per second, that's what this one was shot in. I was able to freeze the action and get that perfect time right when she's in air. And this was the raw image, and then this is our edited image right here. So we have our raw image, and this is our edited image. So overall, really happy with the photo quality of this camera. So the next thing I want to go over with you guys is some settings that I have changed on this camera to really take it to the next level. So let's start with the overheat setting. And I will admit that there have been a few times that I've been either filming in the studio on a hot day or outside on a hot day, and I get the overheat temp warning, and then I can't do anything with the camera. So luckily there is a setting for that, and we're gonna go over that right now. So if we go into our menu here and we go down to the yellow one, which is our setup, and we go over and we go down here to number 9, which is our power setting option. And then you have your auto power off temperature. And by default, it's turned on standard, but we're gonna set that to high, and that will give you a warning that the temperature of the device may rise. To prioritize recording time, would you like to change a setting? Yes, absolutely, Sony. I would like to change that setting. So that's the first setting. So the next setting that I want to go over is a great setting for shooting with strobes in the studio. So we're going to go into our menu. We're going to go down here to our shooting menu, which is the red one. We're going to go down here to number 10, which is our shooting display. And we're going to go over here to our live view display set. So right now it is turned to off. I'm going to turn it on, which is what most people would want. Now, since I have it turned on, as I change the camera settings of this camera, we can see here that the display is updating in real time. Now, generally, when shooting in a studio with strobe lights, you want your ISO to be the lowest, which is 100. F8 is usually your aperture, so everything is in focus, super sharp, and we'll change our shutter to 1/200th of a second. Now the problem with that is, as you can see, the display is very dark, so we can't actually see what we're shooting. So if we go into our menu and we go back to that specific menu item that we were going to, which is the shooting display, and we go to our live view display set, I'm going to turn that off. So now what that does is, no matter what I do to the camera settings, you can notice here I'm changing my shutter speed, I'm changing my ISO, I'm changing my aperture, that the camera display is not changing at all. So that way, when you have your settings the way they need to be, which is usually around F8, a low ISO of 100, and a shutter speed of 1/200th of a second, you can still see that you can actually see what is going on in the display. So that way, when you're shooting in a studio, this is a great setting to turn on and off. So the next setting that I want to show you guys, this is like, if you're gonna watch this video and remember one thing, this is the one thing that I want you to remember. It is called Gamma Display Assist. And what this does is it's going to put a Rec 709 LUT on the display of the camera, but still allow you to record in S-Log. So let me show you how that works. So if we go into our menu here, and we'll go all the way down to our setup option here, and we go to display option, we have Gamma Display Assist. Now I'm going to turn that on, and then down here, Gamma Display Assist type, I have it from S-Log 3, which is what I film in all the time, which is picture profile 8, as I said before, to Rec 709. That is going to allow you to film and expose much, much better than just filming in regular S-Log. I mean, this seriously is a game changer. I can't show you on this display. I can see it on my camera display, but trust me, when you turn it on, you will see exactly what I mean. And again, it only puts the Rec 709 onto the camera screen. You're still recording in S-Log, but it makes exposing for S-Log much, much better and more efficient than not having it. So the next setting that I want to show you is something that every camera should have, and it's such a game changer when swapping lenses or just turning the camera off in general. So we'll go to our menu, we'll go down here to setup, which is the yellow one. We're gonna go all the way down to number 13, which is setup option, and we're going to go to anti-dust function. I don't know why this isn't turned on by default. It is off by default. Turn that on, because what that is going to do is every time you shut off the camera, a little shutter protector is going to come down and cover the sensor, which means you're not going to get any dust on your sensor. Now, the nice thing about the Sony A7 IV is the new menu system that Sony incorporated into this camera. The nice thing is all this stuff that we just talked about, you can actually add into what is called My Menu, which you can notice here is at the top. It's starred. For My Menu number 1, I have monitor brightness, movie settings, aspect ratio, picture profile, face and eye priority, and monitor brightness. For menu 2, I have image quality, aspect ratio as well, bracketing settings, anti-dust function, steady shot, which is your active stabilization, and live display view set, since I do a lot of studio photography as well. And then my menu 3, I have the format and the gamma display assist. This is just how I do it. Obviously, you can customize it to fit your needs better than me. So those are all my thoughts on the Sony A7 IV. Hopefully you guys enjoyed comparing raw images versus edited, and hopefully you learned something with the apps that Sony offers and learned some new settings to elevate your Sony A7 IV and help you decide if you should buy this camera or not. Let me know what you learned and your thoughts on this camera in the comments below. And if it's your first time here, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more Venti Views content, and I will see you guys in the next video.